let's talk about that a little bit because
Mm.
um, usually in groups like this, it leads to corruption
Mhm.
and other issues.
Mhm.
And th- over recent years, there's allegations of sex abuse
Mhm.
at Gloriavale. What do you have to say to those allegations? Because and then as a second part of that question, just corruption in general and sort of power, the power of power, and how that all worked and how it affected you while you were there.
Mm. Yeah, very definitely. A lot of the allegations that have been made are true, and in different facets. I mean, there's always a little bit of exaggeration sometimes on how people remember events to happen, and obviously you would expect that. But essentially, yeah, there was some horrific abuse that happened, and even historically, even 20, 30 years ago, that shouldn't have happened. Like the founder was put in prison he was jailed for over sexual abuse, and I was a child at that time. I was about 12 or 13 when that happened. The police came in, took him away, did a big search of everything, and we weren't told why. We never really found out why until quite recently, and we were just told he was being persecuted for being a Christian. But he was put in prison. We used to go visit him. It was still he still controlled and ran the
Whoa.
place from prison. And then when he got out, he went straight back as the main leader again for another 20 odd years.
What?
Yeah. And so that in itself, so there's actually some massive government failures as well. Like knowing someone after someone's been convicted of that, to then put them back into a setting where there's a lot of children, where they're then also the ultimate leader, also in that position of ultimate authority and power. I mean, power, as you know, absolute power corrupts, and power corrupts absolutely. And so humans can't handle that level of control over other people without it just getting to them, and that's why it's not healthy for them to have it. And so that's really important to recognize as just a failure in humanity and in people. That's why we need accountability. We need to actually to have something to measure up to, and to perform. And that's, we actually need that as people. So that is very much the case in the community. Like there's a lot of power, there's a lot of control. It's held there by restricting knowledge, restricting movement, communication, and then also from the religious teaching side, to limit the exposure to other pastors, other ways of thinking. There's critical thinking is discouraged. It's so parallel with socialism and what's happened behind the Iron Curtain in Europe and a lot of communist countries. There's a lot of the same tactics. And funnily enough, you might think, how can this happen inside a country like New Zealand without influence from anything else? And you just realize, well, it's just a part of humans and what humans will do when they're given that opportunity. So yeah, pretty interesting.